In this context, the wild chase stands as a striking symbol of von Stuck's vision, how myth can unearth the deepest truths about human nature. Painted in 1889, the masterpiece depicts the Germanic god Wotan, or Odin, commanding a phantom host as it thunders across a storm-torn sky. The scene draws its essence from the old Northern European legend of the Wild Hunt, a ghostly cavalcade of spirits, gods, and spectral riders said to sweep through the heavens, foretelling war, plague, and death. In von Stuck's interpretation, Wotan rides a mighty black steed, flanked by shadowy figures and demonic hounds. His face is set in grim determination, eyes blazing, hair caught in the fury of the wind. What makes the painting truly remarkable is its portrayal of Wotan, not as a distant, untouchable deity, but as the very embodiment of chaos and vengeance itself. The dynamic composition, rearing horses, jagged lightning, swirling cloaks, captures an unstoppable, almost apocalyptic momentum. Von Stuck wields deep, storm-laden colors and violent contrasts to heighten the supernatural and psychological tension that fills the scene. When it first appeared, the artwork was hailed for its mythic grandeur, but in time, it would earn notoriety for reasons far beyond its original artistic intent. The figure of Wotan occupies a sacred and complex place in Germanic mythology, and later in nationalist ideology. As the chief of the Aesir gods in Norse legend, Wotan is the god of wisdom, war, and death, a shape-shifting wanderer who sacrifices greatly in his endless pursuit of knowledge. He inspires awe and fear alike, often tied to madness, destruction, and fate. By the 20th century, amid the rise of National Socialism, this ancient god was seized upon by Völkisch thinkers and Nazi propagandists, who twisted his image into a symbol of supposed Aryan might and divine authority, this mythic past, reimagined through the Romantic. Visions of art and the fever of nationalist philosophy became the cornerstone of the Nazi regime's attempt to justify its ideology as a resurrection of some pure, ancient Germanic spirit. In 1936, Carl Jung, in his essay Wotan, identified the god as an archetypal force, a primal energy that had reawakened within the German psyche during the rise of Nazism. According to Jung, Wotan embodied a restless, destructive vitality, a wild, ecstatic irrationality that seized the German nation and propelled Hitler's ascent to power. Jung's interpretation gives the wild chase a haunting new dimension. It suggests that von Stuck's painting may have, perhaps unknowingly, tapped into a collective, unconscious, a deep psychic current that would later erupt on the world stage with catastrophic force. One of the most debated and unsettling aspects of the wild chase lies in the uncanny visual resemblance between von Stuck's Wotan and Adolf Hitler himself, the god's dark swept hair, the faint shadow above his lip resembling a mustache, the piercing stare and forward-leaning posture all mirror the familiar silhouette of the Führer. Though there is no evidence that von Stuck had any prophetic intent, the coincidence remains chilling. Even more striking is the fact that the wild chase was painted in 1889, the very year Adolf Hitler was born. This eerie overlap has fueled decades of speculation, ranging from symbolic interpretations to the downright supernatural. Biographers such as Wim Fest and Bridget Hammond have both noted the disturbing parallels between von Stuck's Wotan and the self-fashioned image that Hitler himself would later adopt, a convergence of myth, art, and destiny that history still struggles to fully explain. Though Hitler's public image evolved over time, shaped by propaganda, media, and even fashion, the notion that he might have consciously or subconsciously modeled himself after such archetypal figures is entirely believable. He was, after all, an ardent admirer of Germanic art and mythology, and Franz von Stuck stood among his most cherished artists. Adolf Hitler's relationship with art was as deep as it was conflicted. In his youth, he dreamed not of conquest, but of canvas. A failed painter who applied twice to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, only to be rejected both times. His early watercolors and sketches reveal a fascination with romantic architecture and classical harmony, a longing for beauty, order, and grandeur that would later twist into something far darker. As Führer, Hitler sought to rebuild Germany not merely as a modern power, but as a mythic civilization reborn. Architect Albert Speer would later call it the architecture of eternity. Colossal, timeless, designed to outlast empires. Hitler's cultural vision was drenched in the imagery of a mythic past, and figures such as Wotan, Siegfried, and Arminius became central to the Nazi mythos. Richard Wagner's operas, with their thunderous depictions of Norse gods and Germanic heroes, were elevated to ideological scripture within the regime. Hitler's private library overflowed with books on mythology, Aryan history, and German folklore. In this context, the wild chase likely resonated with him on a level beyond mere admiration for art. To Hitler, it was an archetype, a reflection of destiny itself. Wotan, the all-seeing, wrathful god riding across the storm-torn heavens to purify and conquer, mirrored Hitler's own grand delusion that he, too, was a chosen avenger sent to restore Germany's power through fire and fury. The Nazis were masters of symbolic politics. From the swastika, an ancient solar emblem rebranded as their divine insignia, to the Nuremberg rallies, choreographed with Wagnerian spectacle and mythic grandeur, every symbol, every song, every gesture served to merge myth with reality. Their dream of a Third Reich was not just political, it was mythological. A resurrection of a lost golden age through blood, sacrifice, and apocalyptic vision. Nazi ideologues such as Alfred Rosenberg and Heinrich Himmler championed a fabricated, mythic racial history, one rooted in Aryan supremacy and ancient Germanic paganism. Within their worldview, myth was not mere legend, but a weapon, a divine justification for domination. The SS, under Himmler's direction, even adopted sacred runes and ceremonial rituals drawn directly from Norse symbology, blending mysticism with militarism. Although there is no evidence that the wild chase was ever officially endorsed or displayed by the Nazi regime, Franz von Stuck's legacy remained respected throughout the Third Reich. His works adorned German museums, and Hitler himself was said to own several of von Stuck's paintings, praising him as a true master of the German soul. Whether the wild chase foresaw Hitler's rise or merely reflected the archetypal forces he later embodied is a question that continues to haunt historians and art critics alike. Some believe the painting served as a kind of subconscious prophecy, an artistic premonition of the storm that would soon consume Europe. Others insist the resemblance and timing are mere coincidence, albeit a chilling one. Still, the broader cultural landscape of late 19th and early 20th century Germany, marked by nationalism, mythic revivalism, and collective psychological unrest, provided fertile ground for totalitarian ideologies to take root. In that sense, von Stuck's work was not prophetic in the mystical sense, but profoundly perceptive. It captured the very mood of a civilization on the edge, a world trembling between its ancient gods and its coming madness. Franz von Stuck's The Wild Chase endures as a masterpiece of symbolist art, alive with mythic depth, emotional intensity, and allegorical power. Painted in 1889, it has since taken on a mythic identity of its own, due in part to its eerie visual echo of Adolf Hitler and its thematic alignment with the destructive forces he unleashed. Whether viewed through the lens of Jung's archetypes, German nationalism, or the visual language of propaganda, the painting occupies a haunting and unforgettable place in art history. It stands as a stark reminder that images, like myths, never truly die. They linger in the collective unconscious, waiting, perhaps to be awakened again by the turning of history itself.